Hello guys, this is Chirodip once again and you're watching Code Java tutorial series. So this is the part 10 of the Code Java tutorial, and in this part we're gonna learn about constructor in Java. So before starting, I would like to tell you few little things about constructor. So constructor is basically a same name as your class name, and it is defined in a definition block. Now, what is the definition block? What is the class name and what is a constructor? I will tell you everything in detail. Now, constructor has a property that it's automatically get loaded whenever an object is created. Now, take this example. I have defined one class and here the class name is A. Now, the constructor here represents that the same name, and it is having a definition block, that is this opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis, and this is a default method, default constructor, as you can see, and it can be called as a constructor, this particular selected area. Now it's get automatically loaded whenever an object is created. Now suppose we are creating an object of the class a1 equals to new A. Now it will be automatically get loaded. This particular definition block will automatically get loaded when we are creating this this particular object of class A. Now object creation statement require a corresponding constructor if we need to specify the available constructor. Now here we have defined the constructor definition block, that is a default definition block, default constructor. Now if we delete this thing, it also get compiled successfully, but the thing is compiler is having some default constructor, and if we override them, then the output will be the overridden methods output, and if we don't override, then there will be no such output. But compiler is having the default constructor when the class is loaded into the memory. Now the ground rule over here is it will check whether compiler has provided all mandatory things in a .class file to load the class into your memory or the constructor. Now constructor is needed basically to interacting with a database. We need some statements, and these statements are kept in constructor, like mainframe, database, SAP, Oracle, etc. For each class, suppose this is a class A, I can define n number of object for this class, and for one constructor we can create that n number of object. If we are creating a1 new A, that is a object is created, and for this class we are creating another object aa2, aa3, like this. So for one constructor we can create n number of object over here, and without constructor we can't create an object without the help of constructor, that is a new A. So suppose in this line, what is the significance of this line? In this line I have defined that a1 equals to new A. That means that I am creating one reference here, aa1, and that reference equals to the new A, that will be a object, that will be a new object of the class A. Now without constructor we can't create an object. This is a constructor calling, and without the help of this new A we can't create an object. But in Java, in constructor we can't we can keep n number of executable files, and it does not require a destructor, because internal configuration, Java is having internal configuration that it does not require any destructor over here. Now these few things are needed to learn few more things about constructor, and we will get to know more about constructor in the subsequent programs in this tutorial. So what's happening actually over here? Now this is a default constructor definition block. This is called the definition block, opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis, and we are creating one object over here from the main method, and new A means it will call the default constructor, and from that it will get the output as constructor and a delimiter, same as like the other two statements also. So we are getting 3 times output as a constructor. Now moving to the next program, here you can see that I have defined one class B, and I have defined one constructor, and that is a argument type constructor. Okay, it's taking one argument, it's taking one integer argument over here, and it's printing that from b int. Now we are creating one object over here, b1 equals to new b, and we are supplying one argument over here, and we are creating another object bb1, and again we are supplying another integer. Now the thing is, you have I have defined one b1 over here, and this is a local variable, and again I cannot use the name as b1, you have to use except b1. Now you can see that the error is a duplicate local variable. Now it will not compile, actually it's an error, and you can't give the name b1 in both the statement while creating an object. You can, if you give as b2, then it will compile very successfully, and it will give you output from b int both the times, 2 times. But if you give the name as b1 in both the statement while creating the object of the class b, then it will not compile, because you have used b1 in your first statement of your main method. So this is one another rule. Now moving to the next program, as you can see that in this class also I have taken one integer argument in my constructor. So I'm giving an output that from constructor, and we're creating one object from the main method in c obj equals to new c. Now what is happening actually over here? As you can see that the constructor c is undefined. We have not defined any constructor that is a default constructor. If you are creating one, if you are calling one constructor, then you have to define that. If you are not defining anything, it can also be run, but if you are defining any constructor, then there should be a default constructor must be declared. You can't just carry without declaring, or you can't just proceed without declaring default constructor and writing another argument type constructor. If we delete this line, then it will compile very successfully, no matter what is the problem, but because compiler is having his own method, own default method. But if we declare this thing and not declare the default constructor, if we are declaring the integer type argument constructor but not declaring or not defining the default constructor, then it will not compile very successfully. So this is another step to remember. And moving to the next program, it's a modification of the previous program. Now here what we have done is we have defined the default constructor itself and the argument type constructor itself, so it will compile very successfully, and it will call the first default constructor, as we are not supplying any argument over here on any integer argument. So it will call the default constructor, and the output will be from default constructor. Let's see what is the output. Yeah, you can see that the from default constructor is the output and done. And if we want to call this particular constructor, this particular integer type argument constructor, then you have to give a number. Suppose I am giving a number 8. Now it will give the output from the argument. Yeah, you can see that the output is from argument constructor. Now this thing will run compile very successfully, as because we have defined the default constructor itself. But if we are deleting this, then it will not compile. Now moving to the next program, here what I have defined that this is a very critical program, and this is a very funny program. Now see what I have done. Actually I have defined the default constructor here, and I am creating one object in the default constructor itself. Now from the main method I am creating one object of the class E. Now it will show a stack overflow error. Why? Because it's creating one object of class E from the main method, and it's calling the particular default constructor, and again it will call to its own, and while creating the new object of the class E and calling itself. So it will again call itself and itself and itself, and it will like a loop, so never ending loop. So it will show error. As you can see, the error is like this: java.lang.stack overflow error. So this is a very critical problem. So you have to just keep remember this thing, that you can't call a default constructor from the default constructor block itself, because it will just recursive, and it will show the stack overflow error. Now moving to the next program, here you can see that this is a program of constructor overloading. Now what is overloading? So overloading means that you can get the practical approach of overloading over here. I am defining one object over here, f1 equals to new f. So it will call the first default constructor, and again I am creating one object, and it will again call the first default constructor. Now overloading means that I am define the same name, but the different argument over here. The name will be same, but the argument will be different. That will be the method name will be same. Now I am declaring the method name as same in both this function f and f, but this is a default constructor type, and this is a argument constructor type. Now this is a overloading concept. Now from this line, from this particular main method, the output will be from this default block only, because we have not supplied any of the integer in while creating this. But if we call this and supply some value like 10, and it will compile very successfully, and both the block will run. Now you can see that f block is run, and integer type from f int is also ran very successfully. Now moving to the next program, you can see that this program is also like a compile time error program, because I'm creating one integer type argument constructor, and again I am creating one integer type argument constructor. Now while I am creating g1 new g, the default constructor is not present over there, and we are calling this, and you can see that the constructor g default constructor is undefined. We have not defined any sort of constructor over there. So as because of that, and this is also an error, and another error is we are calling duplicate method. We have defined duplicate method, because this method is also catching one integer argument, and this method is also catching one integer argument. You can't declare duplicate method in your class, so the compiler will not understand that which method you want to call. Suppose this program, I'm modifying this program like this, like I'm declaring the default constructor over here, and I'm just creating, and this program will run because this statement will be okay, like I have defined the default constructor, but still the error exists because I have defined one duplicate method. Now if I supply one integer argument also here, what will happen? Compiler will not understand which particular method we want to call, because both the method is taking one integer argument. So compiler will get puzzled and will not compile, and it will show error. Now you can see that exception in thread main java.lang.error, unresolved compilation problem. That means that compiler do not know what method he wants to call, we want to call actually, because both the method is catching one integer type argument. Now this is a problem, so you have to just remember that we can't declare duplicate methods in any class. Now moving to the next program, in this program we're gonna learn about what is the uses of this constructor. why we are using constructor, why it is needed to declare any constructor in a class. Now suppose in this class I have defined two integer variable, that is I and j, and one default constructor which is taking argument as I equals to 1, it is initializing I as 1 and j as 2, and is giving the println statement as the from h block. Now another method h is taking two integer argument, that is the argument for this particular variables I and j, and it's getting initialized by k. I is getting initialized by the value of k, and j is getting initialized by the value of l, and it's getting is printing the value as hmn. Now we are calling the default constructor in the first line h1 equals to new h, so it will just initialize this. The value of I and j will be initialized by 1 and 2 only, and it will print from h block. Now after that we are declaring we are initializing this particular method, which is taking two integer argument, and we are supplying 10 and 20 as argument. Now we are calling h1.i, that is the first argument, first object dot this particular variable, and the first object that's the second variable. Again we are printing second object dot first variable and second object dot second variable. So what we if we run this program, you can see that we get an output of h block, sorry, we get an output of this h first while we are calling this new h. So this block gets executed, and again we are creating h2 equals to new h, so this block get executed hmn, and when we are calling h1.i and h1.j, then 1 and 2 will be initialization for this block, and 10 and 20 will be initialization for this block, because we are supplying 10 and 20 here over here. Now moving to the next program, before wrapping up this series, wrapping up the tutorial, in this program you can see that I have defined three different sort of argument or variable. One is integer type, one is double type, one is string type, and I am declaring one method over here, one method which is taking three different argument. Okay, so you can declare also this sort of method which can take different arguments. Also a method can take different types of argument. So I am initializing I by m and j by n and s1 by str. Now I am calling only this method particular. Now remember one thing, I have not defined any particular default constructor over here, but it will not show any error, as because I am just calling this method only, particularly this method only. I am calling this argument type method or argument type constructor only, so compiler will easily find that argument type constructor and it will show the desired output. So but if we delete this line and just write I1 equals to new I, then it will show error, because the default constructor is not defined over there. Now I1 equals to new I, it will take integer as 0, double as 20.09, and string as abc, and in the second object it will take integer as I and double as 13.32 and string as xyz. So I'm just printing both of them, both of the object I1.i, I1.j, I1.s1, and I2.i, I2.j, and I2.s1. so the output will be like this. As you can see, the output is 0, 20.09 and abc, and 113.32 and xyz. So it will show the output of your first object which is holding the three variables, and the second object which is holding the another three variables. So I hope you understand the basics of constructor. We will learn more about constructor in our subsequent tutorials, and Thanks for watching and have a nice day.